Hi, I'm John, product manager for PSQuote, and in this video we're going to take a look at a couple of highlights from our spring 24 release and also a few things from our previous release, the winter release as well. So let's jump in. All right, so I'm on an opportunity in Salesforce. I'm going to go ahead and create a quote. We'll give this quote a start date. All right, and then let's add some offerings. So I'll pick Sales Cloud base setup and some custom services. All right. So one of the big new features we've got is our enhanced data table. So this is for both the labor tab and the material tab. You can now enable the enhanced data table feature. And what that does is it allows you to do several new things like adding custom fields to this table. So you can also rearrange the columns or hide columns that you don't need. And so, for example, staffing location, this is a custom field in this demo environment. So I can now change this in line. And as I change this, like to, for example, staffing location to offshore instead of in market, my cost rate actually changes automatically. So you can now have flows and flow actions that fire as records are changed here in the data table. So this is an example where changing a field here can now affect the bill rate, cost rate, hours, other fields on the quote labor and material. So that's a big improvement. It speeds up data entry there. Previously, you could add custom fields, but you needed to go into this pop-up, the more pop-up to access it. Another thing you can do is bulk editing. So for example, if I want to change the bill rate on both of these roles to 225, I can do that. And then I can see I'm discounting the consultant and upcharging the trainer here. And one other new feature we've got that we're excited about is our flow action. And so this allows you to implement a Salesforce flow for certain things like adding new labor materials. So for example, on this offering, if I add a new labor, I get our normal kind of pick list view. And then on this offering, when I hit this add new labor, then I get a screen flow that's defined in this org. And this screen flow can be tailored and configured in implementation or by your team, so that you can, for example, do things like if you want to pull in rate card data from other source objects besides our PSQuote rate card object, you can now do that. If you want to filter this list of roles down so you only have certain roles based on the offering, you can do that. So a lot of flexibility here for leveraging Salesforce Flow for some of these actions now. All right, another item to call out. Let's add some tasks real quick to this quote from a template. All right, so here we go. I have some phases and tasks from my template. I'm gonna give it a start date. The dates all populate based on the predecessor linkage here. It's worth noting you don't have to use tasks and phases for quoting. You can use it for bottom up. So in this case, let's go ahead and allocate. Let's say we need a data analyst for 50% of their time for the whole project, and then process consultant for 100%. And then you can modify for individual tasks. You can change the allocations or hours. All right, so one of the new features is when I do the save and sync, it'll take all these task hours. It will update our quote hours and also update this LOE Schedule tab. So this is the view that gives us our hours by role by week. And then we can use this data for forecasting, demand planning. We can also modify the schedule here if need be. So the task hours here is a new column you can enable to have visibility. So here I can see my hours are all aligned, quote, schedule task hours. We allow those numbers to float independently, and you can sync them up, those three numbers, as you like. Another update to call out is in the spring release, we added the ability if when you're spreading hours out, you can have a different default allocation method. So if you want to have hours per week or hours per range as your default, you can now do that. And you can have that preset for your users when you go in. All right, those are a couple of quick updates. Lots more in the spring and winter release, and more coming on the roadmap. If you're interested in seeing more, please reach out or go to psquote.com and contact us. Thanks.